Happy 2021, y'all. This is Kristen. And last year I created an Inspired Oracles challenge. And I was really hoping to do more videos on that challenge. And just due to pandemic exhaustion, I just really wasn't up to doing them. So I wanted to do something today that's kind of like a wrap up for last year and starting the new year with 2021, just talking about oracle deck making. I know that many of you are still interested in starting an oracle deck or some type of oracle. It doesn't always have to be cards. And I wanted to pull together 10 tips or 10 ideas, 10 sparks perhaps, that might help you this year. Things that I did last year that I think might be good ways to just kind of jump into making an oracle deck, because it doesn't have to be challenging or difficult, and you don't have to think about it as this is the only one I'm going to ever make, and you don't have to think about it as this is the one I'm going to distribute to the public. I actually don't advise that if it's your first one that you're making. Just make for fun, just play. So the first tip or idea or spark is to do it quickly. I did a 10-minute oracle challenge or idea on my Instagram, and it was to make a 10-minute oracle. You can actually set your timer for 10 minutes, and what you can do is just look around your room, the room that you're in, and write down 10 things that you see. And from those 10 things that you see, you're going to make, you could put it on a index card, but you're going to make an oracle from it. And so I found that a lot of people really enjoyed doing that. I'm just pulling some of the cards. I did it just as a really quick exercise, and then I went back later and I made this, I think I call it a room oracle, something like that. So you can see there's just cards with items that might be found in your house. These aren't necessarily things that are all actually found in my particular house, like work gloves, nope. But the concept of it is that you would interpret these different items, based on what they do for you symbolically. What does the hairbrush do? What does the hat do? What are the boxes for? So that was a really popular exercise, and so I would, if it sounds like something that you would have fun with, again, just start it simply. Just set your timer for 10 minutes, get you some index cards, write down whatever you see, and then jot down a little meaning for it. And then later you can, create it into like a more of a deck or something that you can use on a more regular basis. If you follow me on Instagram, I do have a little Instagram guide for the 10-minute oracle, so you can see that. So the second idea or spark is to use an app. And I use apps all the time for my decks. Pretty much everything is made with an app on my iPad. This app I'm going to show you is actually Bitmoji, and I made my first Bitmoji deck, I think it was 2017. And then Jamie Sawyer has a Bitmoji Lenormand concept, and you can see, what she's done is just kind of taken the Bitmoji app and shown you some different ways to make the Lenormand concepts. So I really said I wasn't ever going to make a Bitmoji Lenormand, but I wound up doing one this year. And you can see I made it as circular cards. And so you can see just some of the cards that I made. I actually turned this into a Lenoracle, so it actually goes way beyond the 36 cards for Lenormand. And I just kept, adding more things because it's just a lot of fun. So the Bitmoji app, you put in your, you make an avatar for yourself, and then you can take that avatar and put it into different scenes. And like I said, what Jamie does is give you some good search terms, so you can look up different things, and like for birds or for scythe. I decided to use this one Forsyth. So you can kind of make your own Lenormand easily without having to really search and search and search and search through the Bitmoji app. So this is one that I think is a really great idea. I think it's pretty accessible to everyone. It's really easy to save these images. And then I just did all these on my computer. I think almost everything that I'm going to show you, I made this year on my, like I printed it on my printer using Google Slides for the most part. Here's another one that's based on an app. This one is the ZenBrush 3 app. And with ZenBrush 3, you're just making these kind of brush strokes. I think it's supposed to be like Japanese watercolor. And you don't have to have any, drawing expertise. You're just making different lines. The ZenBrush 3, I've had ZenBrush, I think 1 and 2, which just did black and red colors, but ZenBrush 3 has I think has 30 colors. So it's a really fun app, and I really wanted to utilize it to do something that was more colorful. So think about using an app, just kind of jumping in and playing with some apps. I always encourage playing with different apps. You might be very surprised to find out how well you can utilize them to make decks, to come up with different creative ideas, and also to expand upon your own creative ideas. Another idea is to use a sticker book. So sorry for that pause. I had to go get my sticker book. And I also went and got my sticker casting boards that I made too. So if you love stickers as much as I do, you probably have quite a few of them, and you might not be using them for anything in particular. So these are some casting sheets that I made, just making a bunch of squares and then putting the stickers in them, and then I laminated it too, just because I want to cast over top of it, and it's just going to help it last longer. And you can see I got really excited. I made a whole bunch of these, just little casting sheets. And then this little book, the Antiquarian Sticker Book, was a really fun book that I got this year. And you can see it's just full of, these are all stickers. They can be pulled out. You can see right here. You'll notice that I have not used any of them as stickers because I have just been photographing and using this. I use this one in particular, this book in particular, for my Antiquarian Oracle, which I'll show you in just a second. But it's just got a lot of really great images. The quality is really good, like the clarity, you can see everything very clearly. And a lot of different styles of different things, animals, nature, people, cats. Okay. And so I made this deck based on, again, just really photographing and using an app to remove the backgrounds from these images. And I made this in, like I said, I make pretty much everything that I print right off of the computer in Google Slides. And for the backgrounds, I just went to Pixabay and looked up textured backgrounds, and you'll get a whole bunch of different things that come up. And you can also use apps to make your own textured backgrounds too. So this one is the Antiquarian Oracle. So if you love stickers as much as I do, I'm sure that you can find some really great uses for those. And maybe you don't have stickers. Maybe you have a coloring book instead. I often go to places and get coloring books like the Ollies because they're inexpensive. They're this is upside down. And this is one that I found. I can't find the cover for it, because what I did was I took the book apart so that I could just have the pages of the coloring book. And I'm just showing you these. It's actually a glow-in-the-dark book. So all of these you can see are not like black and white. They're actually more of a gray or kind of like a greenish color. And in terms of coloring books, for me personally, this is too much to color. So what I decided to do with this is, and one of the things that you'll notice, excuse me, at the bottom of the page, you'll see there's already words here. And I did do a video on this with the coloring book, but I just think it's a really great idea. And all of these I'm really looking at, again, as personal decks for you, just to play with and play with some ideas. And every idea leads to another idea. So anything that you create is just going to lead to another creation. So what I made from this is these cards. And what I did was I used, again, apps to convert these to more black and white, as opposed to this kind of the gray-green color. And then I colored them. Like, I actually took some brush pens, and because this is a smaller, smaller thing to color. I can color this much. So I colored them in, and then I laminated and just cut them out. You'll notice I was really into circle decks this year for some reason. I'm not typically, but I made a lot of circular style decks. So I do have a separate video on this, but coloring books are an idea. Another thing that you can do is a deck that's kind of like a study deck, or a deck that you make to understand a system. So I've been studying the I Ching for many, 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 many years. I cannot say that I understand it any better now than I did before. But so one of the things that I wanted to do was just make a deck so that I could really just study the trigrams more independently. And I'm just trying to put in some of the cards. So there's actually, I think there's 4 of each trigram. So each of these cards represents a trigram. So thunder, sun, wind, lake, and you would just put 2 together. And then on the backs, oops, I actually did put all the lines so that I could study them this way as well. But I find that just kind of breaking them down, instead of looking at the whole hexagram, just looking at each trigram separately and kind of putting them into different pairs together. What does it mean to have lake over lake, or lake over thunder, thunder over earth, things like that. It's just been helpful for me to kind of learn the system in my own way or on my own terms. So I always think that's a great way just to study is and also to get more immersed into a system to make your own oracle around it. Another thing that you can do is draw it. Now I know that a lot of you are great artists. I've seen your artwork. I would suggest trying to draw it even if you're not a great artist. So I do not consider myself to be a great artist, but I had a lot of fun making this deck. I'm just going to show some of the images and just drawing kind of simple things that I thought were within my skill set. And also, I think when you practice drawing, you do get better, but you also you get more comfortable with what you draw. Like you just get more comfortable with your art style. So I think that's a really important aspect. So practice drawing, even if drawing is not necessarily your thing. And so this is a deck that I made in the summer, and then you can see let's just take one. You can see the drawing is here, but all the stuff kind of on the outside, that's from an app. And so that's what I'm saying, that you can use the apps to help, just make your drawings look better or give you just different backgrounds and things like that might make the overall image just better. So I really love using apps to brighten things, to bring out like the colors, but also just to kind of add different elements like this tie-dye effect. Another thing that you can do is collage it. So I'm not typically into collage, although I'm probably more in the last couple of years I've been into collage, but I really didn't think I was going to do a photo collage, like a magazine kind of collage by hand, and this year I did. It was a lot of fun. So if you have a bunch of magazines, which I happen to have a bunch of fashion magazines, I actually got them probably 2 years ago from a library, and they were selling them for 10 cents each. And so I had a pretty big collection of them. And what I did was I just made a collage, just cutting out different images. I am using the headlines or whatever words that I saw that I thought could be interpreted symbolically. It's kind of like the title for the card. And then I just found different images that seemed to work with it, or really I really tried not to think that much for this. I just found things that were just kind of worked together visually. And I actually did not glue these down. Like I just laid them down on a piece of paper, and then I photographed them. And then again, using different apps, I just I kind of brightened everything up a little bit, and then put it into a like a collage app so that they would be circular. And then I put it into my Google Slides. So again, you see another circular deck from me. As I said, I was doing lots of circular decks this year. It is a little tiresome cutting them out, because you cut them out with scissors, whereas normally I would use a paper trimmer. But this one was really fun to do, and again, it doesn't take any real art skill. You don't have to draw anything. you can just pull images together, and using the words, like just pulling the words in there, it really makes it a little bit more cohesive as a deck, and it's actually a lot more readable too as a deck. Another thing that I always say, this is another spark. This is something I talk about a lot. It's something that most people aren't that into, but I always say you can do a words only deck. So earlier in the year, I made a deck called Mystic Maker Muse question cards for creatives. And so this is just a deck of question cards. And they're all based on creativity. So think about questions. I don't think people think about questions as an oracle, but they definitely are. I think we can use questions in an oracular way to give some insight into what you need to find out. What is it that you need to know? Okay, so these are just some different question cards that are part of this set, and I'll have some of these are available on my Ko-fi page, so I will have links to everything that I've shown here if it's available. You'll know where to find it. So questions are really a great oracle. And then I did another one called the Word Wise Oracle, and it's words only. And if you saw my Word of the Year Oracle, it combines two different two words together to make like a word of the year. This is kind of based on that same concept where you have two words, although with this one, some of the words are shadow words, like some of them are challenging, difficult, whereas the Word of the Year Oracle is all positive, happy, good stuff. So you just pull two words together. I printed these on yellow, and then the second word is on purple. And so you would just pull them out. And I use these like theme cards. So what's going on right now, you can kind of see what two cards you're getting. These are great for answering questions as well. So you don't have to draw, you don't have to have any artwork. I find that a lot of times, for me, in terms of the decks that I've made, that I sell through my printer studio shop, the ones that just have words are actually the best sellers. So don't forget your words. Think about a words only deck. Now, one thing that I had come up with this year, like it was a new idea for me, was to come up with an oracle deck that's based on a tarot deck. And the main one that I did a couple of them this year, but the main one was really based on, the first one was based on this deck, the Mystical Dream Tarot. And the reason why I thought of doing this is because I could not understand the cards. The cards are actually not, I think you can read it if you understand Rider-Waite-Smith, but they're really not Rider-Waite-Smith based. The cards are based on the deck creator's dreams and dream symbols, which, may or may not be the same as my dreams or dream symbols. And so I thought it was a beautiful deck, like just the colors and everything. I don't have it in front of me, but you can see some of the coloration here. There's a lot of like browns and blues, and there's like an unusual kind of pink color and green color. So what I did was I took the symbols that I saw, like even for here, the snake, and I used their meanings for the snake as opposed to my own symbolic meanings for snake. And that actually helped me to understand this deck a lot better. So I made a deck that has not only just the symbols, and when I say symbols, I mean like just breaking down the cards. There are a lot of symbols in the cards. Like, for example, you might see a skull. You might see mirror in a card, or wings. A lot of people have wings. There was like an airplane in a couple of the cards. There was a noose in a card. And so I really went through and figured out, like, what do they say? You know, there was waves in a lot of cards. How are they really interpreting the waves? And so the other thing that I did, I'm trying to get some different cards up here so you can see the color scheme that I use is actually based on the deck as well. So when you look at these cards, the color schemes is based on the deck too. And there is an app. There's an app for that. I keep saying, I always say that's the answer for everything. There is an app for that. So there is an app that will, I can't remember the name of it right now, but I will link it for you. There's an app that will change the color of your photo or image to the color or image of something else. So you put in like the example and it will change that color. So that's what I used for this. And so it is also in the color scheme of the deck as well. And so this is so straightforward, this deck, to read now. So I do kind of use them together, and I also use this one with just other tarot decks that are kind of obscure and maybe a little difficult to read. And then once I add these cards, everything is just straightforward. This is probably one of the easiest decks that I've even made to read. I really wasn't anticipating that. So that's an idea. Take a tarot deck, maybe one that you don't understand or that you don't use a lot, and go through and make an oracle deck based on it. It may not be based on symbols the way that I use. Maybe it's based on something else. But I just think that's a really good idea. And let's see, we're at the last one. I just want to make sure we went through. We're going to do it quickly. Use an app, sticker book, coloring book, understand a system, draw it, collage it, words only, a deck based on a tarot or an oracle based on tarot. And the last one is make it ugly. So I always get flack when I say that. What I mean by make it ugly is make a deck that does not start off. You're not starting off thinking that it's going to be the most beautiful, bestest, prettiest, amazing thing. I actually do mean make it ugly. Like start off scribbling or scrawling or whatever. I mean, whatever is ugly to you, I guarantee you there's an idea in there. And so what I'm showing you here is my glitch oracle that I released last year in November. And this is an oracle deck. It's really based on computer jargon. And it started off with this making it ugly theme. I was just, there are, again, apps for that. Glitching things, making your images look glitched, like these. And that's what I was doing. I was just using some glitch apps, just distorting. They're called distortion apps. And I was just distorting stuff. Again, I was starting with something ugly. I wasn't trying to make it pretty. I do find a lot of times when you make the deck ugly, or you that's where you start. You're doing a lot of shadow work with that as well. So that's just a concept to work with. But I think it is important too, because it helps you to get out of this mode of thinking that this has to be perfect or it has to be beautiful. You can create beauty out of something that starts by not creating it beautifully. And that's really where I got with this one, because after I started glitching some stuff, I was like, oh, these are really neat. I think this is a deck. And then it turned into a deck of computer jargon. And it's really kind of looking at how we use these different words all the time in our normal conversations, but they really are computer words. So if we take them from the computer terminology, what do they mean in terms of day-to-day dialogue, or what do they mean in terms of spiritual guidance? And so the last spark is to make it ugly and see what you get, see what comes out of that. And so that's what all of these are for. It's just ideas, creative sparks. And I hope that one of these sparks is the spark that really resonates for you, and that you just take some time to just explore and see where it takes you. I also want to say, just start somewhere. Like, just make the first thing. Again, just start with scratches and scrawls and scribbles, or whatever it is that you do, because every creation leads to a new creation. So I hope that in this year 2021, that if you've been wanting to make an oracle deck, or an oracle of some type, that this is your year to begin.